some of the wildest tribunal claims from 2024. This was an article put out by a HR magazine and I thought it was brilliant, so let's go through them. Saying back in your day could have been discriminatory. An employment judge ruled that this could amount to unwanted conduct. The employment judge said that this was barbed and unwelcome and used to highlight an age gap between co-workers. However, the judge found no clear evidence that the comment was ever made, but said if it was, it could have been unlawful. A female director at an investment company was told her trousers made her look frumpy and she lost her claims for unfair dismissal, sex and race discrimination. Her claim was for harassment and was based on the company's alleged failure to support her in her indefinite leave to remain. But apparently the HR director also said that her trousers made her look like a frumpy grandmother auntie. The tribunal judge did say that such a comment was unwanted conduct related to sex, but because it was inherently linked to gender and had the purpose of affecting or violating the claimant's dignity. However, the person was actually out of time for bringing that particular claim. A lecturer was unfairly dismissed for leaving work early, was awarded more than £50,000. This was because the college did not follow a fair disciplinary process. They found the decision to dismiss fell beyond the bound of reasonable responses. A sushi comment was not racist. This was a Japanese language and translation specialist and she accused her line manager of harassment, bullying and unfair treatment. The comment was made knowingly that the claimant was Japanese and believed she would receive this positively. And apparently this was just small talk that went wrong. The dismissal of a professor was astonishing and the adjudication officer said that she would have awarded more if possible. The professor was compensated to the tune of €300,000, the largest ever award made in Ireland against a public sector employer. The employee had worked from the Netherlands during the pandemic and had always meant to relocate to Cork. His performance was described as exceptional and students' grades reflected this. He found it difficult to secure a house in the city but regularly travelled there for work. The adjudicator said, by any measure, is quite extraordinary. And it seems like the university didn't follow any procedure. A woman who worked unpaid for 20 years was unfairly dismissed. She worked at a store owned by her parents-in-law, worked a minimum of 40 hours per week, repeatedly asked to receive a wage but was refused. Unknown to her, from 2018 to 2022, her husband made declarations to HMRC that she was earning around £12,500. She was denied time off and her husband was absent from the shop for hours each day. Eventually started to pay her, they were paid in cash and there were no pay slips. These stopped in October, so she resigned. In the decision, the judge said, "We have no hesitation in concluding the claimant was constructively, unfairly dismissed for the reason or principle that she took action to enforce her right to the national minimum wage." A German police officer was dismissed for stealing cheese. Now this wasn't in the UK, but let's go through it anyway. A German police officer lost an appeal to overturn his dismissal after stealing 180 kilograms of cheddar cheese. He loaded 9 large packs of cheddar cheese into a police vehicle. He was wearing his uniform and he asked employees of a recovery company to hand him some undamaged cheese packages, and 6 of those packages went unaccounted for. A German news site reported that he told the superior officer that the cheese had been lying in the road and it had been released. Former genius at an Apple store in London won his claim for unfair dismissal under a non-existent zero-tolerance policy. He joked with a Chinese colleague about you lot releasing another deadly disease on the world. The employment tribunal heard that racial stereotypes were often joked within the team, and he said that he knew the colleagues would understand the joke. The employment tribunal said no reasonable employer would dismiss somebody by relying on the application of a zero-tolerance policy which does not exist. The judge said the manager had in his mind a policy of zero tolerance, which at best was his interpretation of some other policy. Breaking wind at younger colleagues was age discrimination. A manager at Birmingham City Council in his late 50s was said to have found it amusing to break wind on a younger colleague. And apparently after doing so, he said, "I can get rid of you like I have others in the past." The younger worker eventually went on sick and then resigned. And he then sued the council. And lastly, a tribunal claim over a dubious birthday fails. A solicitor described a citizen's advice policy to award hard-working staff their birthday off as dubious and lost her employment tribunal claim. She brought a complaint of constructive unfair dismissal to the employment tribunal. She alleged breach of the implied duty of mutual trust and confidence. And it was said to describe the initiative as dubious on a forum open to all employees was an inappropriate way of raising any concern. Each month, staff could nominate colleagues for being excellent collaborators. The claimant posted in response, "That sounds a bit dubious to me." The CEO then posted that it was a shame that a few had reacted with such negativity. The claimant admitted that her comment was ill-judged and agreed. Describing the initiative as dubious on a forum open to all employees was not an appropriate way of raising any concern. And the employment judge concluded that the CEO had reasonable and proper cause to respond in the same way the employee did, but that his comment was not reasonable, and she lost her employment tribunal claim. So what do you think? Do you think any of these are valid?